Hey, so glad to have you with us today. Ready for it? It's time to sports it up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Sports Time Out.
It's the My Michelle Live podcast.
My Michelle Live. My Michelle Live. Sports Timeout. The fans, the field, the faith, the fun. Here's Michelle.
Yes, here's Michelle, and I am not alone. I'm here with my round table of fellas, ready to take on the sports world. Broadcasting remotely, I'm just a couple hours short, south of Tampa Bay, Florida, and Tampa has been all the buzz, because they have like a hockey team or something that has been doing fairly well, but there's a lot going on in the sports realm. So we're going to be taking it on, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for sports. Thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. All right. So let me introduce you to who we have with us. We have Rich Hallstrom, who is the author of Thunder Sports Network, co-author that is, and veteran sports reporter. He is a pastor, he is a chaplain, and he is an all-around cool guy, the Reverend of Sports himself, Garrick Payne. We have Matt Peel, who's the author of Athlete in the Game of Life. He'll stretch you in the right direction. And Wookie of the Year, and you can find him on Twitter at Josh Reports Live, Joshua McMillan. I'm your host, Michelle Mendoza. And gentlemen, there is so much going on right now. It's like one of my favorite sports time of the years. But Josh, the only thing that's missing is football. If we still had XFL, we would have games right now, right?
Well, we would, and hopefully that'll be a thing again here
Next
very
year.
soon.
Yeah, that'd be nice, but that's
we're
okay.
hoping.
We've got a lot going on. So I want to start out with hockey since I'm right here near Tampa. The Lightning they've been taking the Stanley Cup Finals by storm. Excuse the pun. Anyone following that?
Well, the Lightning have played real well as a team. They're off to a 2-0 lead in the series against Montreal. And Carey Price, the goalie for Montreal, doesn't know what's hit him in the first two games. Tampa Bay knows what it's like to be a defending champion, and they're taking it to them right now.
Yeah, it's boom, kind of nice to watch from this vantage point. To be honest with you, it's been a pretty exciting series, though. Anyone else? Okay. The other thing that I've been following and been watching religiously is the NBA, where we have Milwaukee and Atlanta, and that's been a real back and forth. Yesterday, things were tied up. Then Milwaukee went over the top. So we've got some real exciting things there. Good basketball. It's been good basketball.
Well, the best thing about that, Michelle, is if we want to go over to the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns have finally made the NBA Finals for the first time since 1993. Chris Paul, who is a follower of Christ, finally gets a trip to the NBA Finals after putting up with being an LA Clipper and kind of being on the short end of the stick a lot of times in the NBA playoffs. Chris Paul finally gets a hug from Billy Crystal, a longtime LA Clippers fan, and he also gets a trip to the NBA Finals, and he'll be facing either the Atlanta Hawks or the Milwaukee Bucks, like you talked about. Yeah. I think this is going to be a real tough climb for Atlanta to go against the Bucks here in the remaining games of the Eastern Conference Series. I'm going to say, though, my favorite thing about the Eastern Conference Series is seeing Nate McMillan, the former Sonic, put on a great coaching job. And hopefully when the Seattle Supersonics do return to town, can we get Nate as the coach?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to see that.
Up there, he's saying up there in the Seattle region, it is still a sore spot that they lost the Seattle Sounders. Hey, Nate McMillan, is that any relation, Josh?
He's not, but I've actually met him before back in the day, and I remember him. He was telling a story to everyone about when he first started playing, and he was playing against Julius Erving, And he grew up watching Julius Erving, and suddenly in the league, and he knows that step that Irving takes, when he's about to go up, and he saw the step, and so he just reached back and with the tip of his finger blocked it and got it away from him, and he was like, I can't believe that just happened. Which I thought that was kind of a fun story. But yeah, Nate McMillan's a really, really cool guy, also a follower of Christ. I got to meet him and hear stories from at an NBC camp way back in the day.
Yeah, what's an NBC camp?
I'm trying to remember what it stands for, but it's a Christian basketball camp. It's been, a couple decades since I did that. So nice. I can't tell you all the details about it.
Dribbling for Jesus. That's all that matters.
There you go. Yeah, it was a great camp.
Sometimes I drool for Jesus. Anyway, going into the NBA Finals, do you think it's going to be exciting to see teams that we may not have seen a whole lot of in the past in the finals shooting it out?
I think it'll be exciting for the fans, but I don't think the league office in New York likes the possibility of Phoenix plus maybe Atlanta or Milwaukee. They like the bigger markets, unfortunately, and they won't like it, but the fans will like it. And I think
it shakes it up a little bit. You get tired. That's why everybody in the whole world hates the Patriots. It's like, I don't want to see you guys again. I'm sorry. I'm done, right? I'm just saying. Well, am I the only one that feels that way? Am I the only one whining here? Why is no one whining with me?
It's a weird year for basketball because for some reason, basketball didn't follow the script. And it's almost like people caught on that there was a script, and so they had to write a new script that doesn't go with what it usually is, just to shake it up and prove that other teams can actually make it to the finals.
I think it's great for, yes, from a fan standpoint, correct. There's different teams, different markets, smaller markets. So if we really think Atlanta's a big city, so we're not going to say that's a smaller market. Right. But as far as basketball, yes, it is. When you think Atlanta, most of the time people think Atlanta Falcons, right? They don't necessarily think Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, they
Atlanta
think about
Braves.
They think about the Falcons blowing that 25-point lead in the Super Bowl.
I always think about that. And that warms my heart as a Saints fan when I lay my head down at night. So I will never, ever let them forget. Don't give up. Don't forget. Don't forget the Saints lost.
Never forget.
But I will not go down that because I own podcast for another day. So I do think, though, having the Suns and either one, a team that's normally not there. You have two teams that haven't been there or in forever. And I think it's just great from a fandom standpoint.
Speaking of shaking things up a little bit, I want to go over to the Euros. The Swiss, they've been shaking and baking. That's a big, huge story.
It is
until today. Yeah.
Well, okay, come on. I was trying to set things up
today.
We still got to give them some props.
No, they absolutely need to get some props. They worked really hard and today's loss, in penalty kicks. So it wasn't like they got blown out or anything like that. They were very, very respectable. And
2 games in a row, they had to go to PKs, and the pressure at the end of the day, they didn't make it. The guy did a Baggio at the end, Derek, as you saw, puts it over the bar to lose it. So how do you think he's going to feel?
That was awful. Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Who was rooting for the Swiss a little bit?
Oh yeah,
I think everybody
absolutely.
Yeah. For the underdog.
You got to do it. You got to do it. Matt, give us some more insight and updates into what's going on in Euro soccer there.
I think you have another surprise in the quarters with the Ukraine. If you looked at them, they're going to play England, who's on a roll.
We have to talk about England and Germany. Look at this. Yeah. I wore this today because there's big, excuse me for interrupting, Matt, but there's huge political implications because Angela Merkel, the German premier, is trying to get England banned out of Europe completely for travel. Okay, and politically speaking, I think she's trying to give a little bit of a reprimand, if you will, for Brexit. Okay. This is just, my own little political leanings coming out here. And so England really took it to the Germans. To beat them 2-0. That was completely shocking to so many. And and it's something, Matt talking about remembering something for decades. This is huge for the Brits, and then to have the games in Wembley and stuff. I mean, it's the Brits are excited.
Massive. I mean, you couldn't have played it any better for an English fan to pack it up as much as they could. I think they had 45,000 inside Wembley Stadium. I've been into Wembley Stadium twice, and once to actually see a soccer game. I saw in 1995 the Charity Shield match between Blackburn and Everton, and that was in the old Wembley. This is new Wembley. The other time I was there for the Rolling Stones concert. That was pretty cool too.
But you can't beat that, yeah.
But I digress. So it's huge, and so now they advance to play the Ukraine, who I think is a surprise with Shevchenko, former Chelsea player. And they could barely score a goal, yet somehow they advanced into the knockout round and then win and advanced in the quarters. Yeah. So we'll see what kind of team the Ukraine pulls up, and then the other ones you got. I think
there's been some good surprises. Czech Republic
and Denmark
will play Denmark. Tomorrow, and so that's exciting. Italy is playing Belgium right now. My favorite, or my team that I picked to go all the way, was Italy, and they should be able. I mean, Belgium's a little bit banged up right now, and so hopefully Italy will be able to take it to them. I think last time I checked, about 20 minutes in, it was still 0-0. But yeah, and no one really thought that Switzerland was going to beat Spain. I know a lot of people were hoping for that.
Yeah, but man, as close as it came, come on.
Spain's really good, so it doesn't really surprise me that they pulled it out in the end.
Yeah.
They've turned it on too. They were very heavily criticized at the beginning, especially Morata, for his lack of goal production and goal production overall. And now they kind of hit the gas and found their form and are playing well.
Yeah. As long as we're talking soccer, I'd like to get a little update on MLS, how things are going there, shaping up and shaking down as we're mid-season.
Well, the Sounders are still on this incredible run of form. The draw was probably a little bit disappointing at home, but
well, can we just say, if you're following MLS and you're up there in the Northwest, the Sounders are sitting up at the top of the Supporters Shield. Awesome. Good for you.
Undefeated.
A couple of draws, of course, but undefeated. Yet they're playing Vancouver. Come on. They should have pulled off, not just eked by with a draw. That's a little bit, but, I know there's some give and take in the season, but come on.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tough 2 points to not take, when they could have, but we still got a point out of it, and we're still undefeated. And it's going to be interesting when our players all start getting healthy and coming back. And I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Ladero back and just seeing how he's going to fit in with how the Sounders have been doing. But Christian Roldan has been just doing such an amazing job, kind of filling that void and stepping up. And we've had quite a few players stepping up in that same way.
Yeah, there you go. I wanted to take on a little baseball, and I know Josh always likes to weigh in here. Josh, your team is the very sad Seattle Mariners, and if you listen to this podcast, we have a bit of a Seattle connection in some ways.
Sad.
Can't lie about that. Well, it's been sad in the past because think about it. Of all of the major league teams in the country, all of the differing teams, it doesn't matter, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever it may, rugby, the poor Mariners have had the longest dry spell of getting into the playoffs. However, they are above 500 at the halfway mark. So, you got that going for you. What you got for us in the baseball field, Josh?
Yeah, I don't know if you could start off with sad with the Seattle Mariners when they just won the series against the Blue Jays. They won the one in extra innings.
Hey, can I tell you something if you're watching this
right now?
Can I tell you something if you're watching this? Here's a little insight into Blue Jays and Mariners. So up in Seattle, Washington, they have Mariners Stadium, which is is now T-Mobile Park. But the funniest thing is when the Blue Jays go to town in Seattle, there are more Blue Jay fans coming down from Vancouver, British Columbia, which is maybe 2.5, 3 hours away. I mean, inundating the city, and it's like a Blue Jays home game. That's where I'm going to say, poor Mariners. That's really difficult. But yeah, congratulations, they pulled it off. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, and gosh, with the storied history there, I mean, this is a story from a ways back, but when the Mariners had the Cubs tied for the most wins ever in a season, I was at that last game where they played against the Blue Jays, and there was a very controversial ground rule double that kept them from winning that game and breaking the record. And that was when a fan threw the ball back in out of the stands. That was a very controversial call. That was against the Blue Jays back in the day. So yeah,
well, we were both expansion franchises together, weren't we?
Yes, 1977.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
remember
some
back
stories
then,
there
Josh?
with the Blue Jays, but no.
Oh, wait,
I'm not quite that old, but I know my baseball history. But no, there's a lot going on in baseball.
There's a lot of positive things, and I'm still holding out. You know, me and my dark horse predictions. I mean, I still predict the Mariners are going to make the playoffs this year. So
I think if
that would
you're
be kind of
above
interesting.
500 at the midway point in baseball, and then you have a chance. It's a long season. If you're below 500, depends on the game. You got a little struggle, but the playoffs are not made in April. They're not made in May. Yeah. So if you're around 500, you got a shot.
Well, and that's what they always say. It's a long season, right? Everyone's going to win 60. Everyone's going to lose 60. It's about the 40 in between that make the difference. And this team was not planning on trying to get to the playoffs this year. This team was planning on figuring out what their young players have. And apparently a lot of these young players have a lot going for them because they are above 500. They are playing really good. I mean, if you look at the last couple series, they won against the White Sox and the Blue Jays, who've been really good teams this year. And go before that, when we swept the Rays with 3 walk-offs in that 4-game series. I mean, they've been playing solid baseball, and that was their goal going into this year was to be difficult to play against. And they have been at least that. They've shown heart. They've shown willing to stay in games. Every time they go on a skid where they lose 5 or 6 games in a row and you think, all right, wrap it up. The season's over. We're going to, try to get a high draft pick or something. Then you get these runs where they just come back and they show the fight, and it's really exciting to see. So I'm really excited for this year and for next year especially.
So let me ask you,
like Matt had said, you root for the underdog. Go ahead, Rich.
Let me ask you a question, Josh. Is that why they dinged Hector Santiago for his substance in the glove?
Yeah, and I want to get to that story just real quick, guys, just to set the stage, because we want our listeners to be viewers to know what's going on here. So he's a pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, Hector Santiago, and he had a 10-game ban for foreign substance on his glove. He's appealing that. Well, first of all, I need to ask the question: what's the foreign substance?
Okay, so there's a couple of things to attack here. First of all,
definitely,
this has been a drama for a while. We've seen a lot of it, and I see a couple sides of this. But in the end, what's going on is pitchers have been using a thing called spider tack, and spider tack gives them it's like super sticky. And you've heard people say you can hear the ball ripping off their fingers when they're throwing it, where they don't even have to grip the ball. It just rips off their fingers because it's stuck on there so well. And it increases the spin rate of pitches to a tremendous amount. And that the overuse of that has been shown now that is exactly why we've seen the batting averages so low this year, because the league decided to step in and say, hey, we're going to crack down on this. We're going to start checking people. And if you have it, we're going to do a 10-game suspension paid, but the team cannot replace you on the roster. That's the big punishment for the team. And so they've been checking everyone, and there's been a lot of drama. A lot of pitchers are whining and saying that, well, I might hurt myself now because I have to change how I throw. And to me, I'm on the side of you were cheating. This was against the rules. Just because they didn't crack down on it before, it was still against the rules. So you can't complain when they start cracking down on it now. It's like, hey, you were doing HGH as a batter, or you're doing steroids as a batter, and we weren't cracking down on it before, but we're cracking down on it now. It's like, well, I won't be able to hit as many home runs. Like, that's the point. That's the point.
Do you remember it in the movie Major League when he took off his shirt and he had all of the different stuff on him? And the guy, what is that? He goes, oh, that's a little jalapeno for my nose. That's a little Bengay for the slider. And he had all this creams that he would just go to illegal stuff, chicken grease, whatever it is, right? In the locker. You remember that, Gary?
Yeah.
So where this has all gone to is we have pitchers being checked after an inning when they're walking off the mound, and some pitchers have taken it in stride. Shohei Ohtani famously, he was like super smiley and he's like, oh yeah, this is fine. But other pitchers have been very angry. They start like throwing off their belt and their glove and not taking it well. So it's been a big drama around the league. Now that all culminates to a Seattle pitcher, Hector Santiago, who is the first one for them to catch a sticky substance on his glove. And now this has been bunged from the beginning. If you watch the coverage of this game, they go out and they check and they're like, oh, they found something sticky on his glove. So he's going to be, ejected from the game and get a 10-day suspension. And the guys in the coverage, like, so they're going to take this over to the authenticator and hermetically seal it in a bag. The dude, none of them have gloves on. They take the glove, they put it in a kitchen bag which looks like one of these scented trash bags, and say they're going to send it to New York for further testing. It's like, okay, because look, the one thing that is legal is you can use rosin. There's a bag of rosin on the mound that people can use, and pitchers will use that, and it gets all over the place, right? Because it's rosin. It gets down your arm, and it can get in your glove sometimes too, but you're not supposed to put it in your glove. Right. But they found a sticky substance, and they supposedly sent it to New York for testing. Well, now it comes out that they say we're suspending it for 10 games. We don't need a verification from New York of what it is. Whoa. We're just going to trust the umpires, and we're going to give him the 10-day suspension. And this, to me, screams of, okay, first of all, let me say this is just
guilty before proven innocent.
Yes, this is America, and I haven't seen leadership this bad since the man who just had his last day this week of the Pac-12 president, he who shall not be named. He's out now. Now we have Rob Manfred over here showing some really bad leadership.
Well, you guys have to talk about now. And, I think we're going to have to cut our program shut by 15 minutes.
Josh and I will find something because Rob Manfred is the second coming of Larry Scott.
He is. I mean, this is awful. And this is them just trying to do something to show that we're in control and we know what we're doing, when the whole thing, they had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea what their plan was. They had no idea how they were going to punish these players or how they were going to verify. I mean, I felt bad for whoever they were going to send the glove to. And he, in this lab, this guy who's gone through years of schooling to do some kind of chemical testing, go in there and be like, you guys handed me a glove that has your hands all over it, your sweat all over it, in a scented garbage bag, and wanted me to, this is not hermetically sealed. This is not scientific by any means.
Sent it to Fauci, right?
Yeah,
Fauci, isn't he the one?
Fauci will take care of it.
Oh,
get it done.
Fauci science strikes again.
I thought it was. Maybe my mistake. I'm sorry.
And,
I thought it was.
Think of the political implications. If this is somebody who is black or transgendered, or in our weird society right now with protected classes, then it's like, oh, you're targeting. So when is it okay to target, and when is it not okay to target? Because really, this could be targeting, when could you imagine if we're in a game 3 of the World Series and all of a sudden someone comes out there with their little garbage bag and saying, oh, hey, that looks sticky to me. And there's no process, and you're taking out the star pitcher. Doesn't that have implications? Come on.
Rob Manfred's case on this whole thing and the way they're administering this rule. I'll go back to a thing that Josh said. They're not taking any precautions. They are not actually testing the glove.
I mean, dude, haven't they watched CSI or NCIS or anything? Come on.
Well,
just say it.
It's not about the rules. It's about looking like you're actually doing something, but you're not. Am I missing that point, Josh, or have I hit the nail on the head?
It screams of a sacrificial lamb. They just want to punish someone to show that we can
put
punish
people on notice.
Doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. I think that pitchers across the league, even though they've complained and whined about how they're going to get injured now because they have to throw differently, I think that they know that they can't do this because it hurts their team, it hurts them. They can't do it now. So they haven't been doing it, and they haven't been caught with anything. And now they're like, it's kind of sticky. Let's just punish them. Because they wanted to catch someone. They wanted there to be that. And Hector Santiago, it's not like this is Aroldis Chapman. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike Santiago. He's been pretty decent this year, but this is not a big name reliever or starter that they're doing this to. They found someone that they could scapegoat and it be okay and it not be a huge controversy for the team or the Stars. And honestly, the Players Association needs to be all over this. The Players Association needs to take control of this and shut it down because this is ridiculous. This needs to go to court.
Notice how they've been conspicuously absent from this whole debate, at least from my point of view. I haven't heard a word from those guys.
No, even checking just before our broadcast today, I'm not seeing anything, fellas. It is really an interesting week, though, where substances are concerned. This, to me, was a really weird story where we have an American sprinter who is apologizing now for the positive test for using marijuana. And there's two sides to this crazy coin, can I just say, for Sha'Carri Richardson. First of all, you're in the freaking Olympics. Put down the joint. And number two, if you're high on marijuana, you have a hard time making it to the fridge or to the cupboard to get your munchies. that shit can compete in the Olympics. Damn.
I'll say marijuana. I've seen a lot of people, that have actually done better with it in competitive environments.
Makes them more relaxed.
I'm on two sides of this thing, right? On the one side, it's ridiculous. Marijuana should be legal. There's no reason for it to be illegal, and people complain. I forgot who it was that said, can you imagine a world where you have marijuana sold in every store? It's like, well, we have a world where alcohol is sold in every store, and it is 1,000 times worse than marijuana is. In every aspect. And that's, perfectly legal to sell everywhere. Marijuana has a lot of medical benefits. It should be legalized. It's ridiculous that it's not, and people need to move towards that more. On the other hand, this is the rules.
Says Josh, who lives in Washington State. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Yes. This is still the rules of the Olympics, and if it's the rule,
there you go,
and you're competing on the highest stage,
back to the Hector thing.
Let's make a specific thing here and let everybody know that this is a USADA rule. This is the U.S. Anti-Doping Association, so this is a doping-related rule. And you all know, and every U.S. athlete is subject to all these rules because ultimately every country has their own standards and they pick their Olympians. So she knew the rules going in and used marijuana to deal with a tragedy in her family. Her mom passed away. And see, that I think is a real issue to talk about. You should not be using any kind of substance to deal with a loss like that. I think there's
that's easy to say. I'm gonna intervene here and say that's really easy to say. We shouldn't be using substances to deal with. But you know what? When you're dealing with the heartache of life, people will satiate. And you could say, well, we don't want them taking marijuana. We don't want them, sucking down a little Jameson but people will find other ways to satiate. Life is difficult. There's pain involved. So, I can understand that. Sometimes you just need to get over the hump, and I'm not going to overly judge someone for that. You got to deal with life. However, if you're also an Olympian, then you need to decide, are you able to suck that up and obey the rules?
Yeah, yeah, or take a break. I mean, I know the Olympics are just around the corner, so it might not be possible, but
Well, and
you
she will
know,
be able to participate. It's a month-long ban. She will not be able to sprint, but she'll be able to compete in the relays. So she's still able
If
to be
she
in the
is
Olympics.
if she is selected by USA Track and Field. If she is not selected by
And
USA
that's the
Track and
caveat.
Field, then she won't. But hopefully, she can get some better help than this, because I think that's the real issue. We have this is where we have a chance to push someone toward a closer relationship with God, and to be able to deal with those hard things, and to come around her and lift her up, and to say that you don't need any substance, legal or otherwise. That there is a better way.
There is a better way, and there is hope. There definitely is hope. My question is, where do we not have something in place for counseling for our Olympiads?
I would say that's one of the biggest areas that the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee needs to improve on, because we saw several years ago with the Ryan Lochte situation that just kind of spun out of control during the Olympics. It's kind of like we want great athletes, we want great results, but away from all of that, if a person falls, we kind of have a tendency as a society and as a world to like to watch that person fall also.
We'd like to watch it, but we kind of sit, especially when it's someone famous, and just go, "Oh, well, that's too bad." We're all kind of going
Yep.
through it, but the competition, the one, as you said, Josh, rules in place for a reason, but that
Well,
need
I
to
didn't
put
say
our
it's in place for a reason. I said the rules in place.
Okay, there you go. But then you have folks like there was some runners, weren't there, from Nambia that were tested at higher levels of testosterone, and so they've been kind of banned as well. So it's not just the USA. Uh, I don't know. To me there's a deeper story of the spirit of competition versus the must win at any cost, and that's difficult.
Well, those two things conflict, Michelle, on a daily basis, and we see it in all the sports. Daniel Snyder, of the owner of the Washington football team, who can't even copyright their name correctly these days, and get an actual name. He was fined $10 million for workplace violations just the other day by the NFL, and he has to give up day-to-day operations. But the NFL is afraid to get rid of him as an owner. Let's talk. That's something that should change. That's something that should not be accepted. Needs to be changed, Josh. This guy doesn't deserve to own an NFL franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it. The whole franchise is dysfunctional, and it should be moved to someone else. I mean, that's the be all end all of it. But at the same time, if you own something, the team really has a hard time just kicking you out of something you own.
Well, and if we're going to talk about having rules, violating people's privacy with allegedly videotaping cheerleaders when they are undressing, and then having an employee keep that on a special tape for use later for personal, whatever you want to call it, and other things like that. It's completely inappropriate.
And if you don't force his removal, in essence, you're saying you're giving a slap on the hand. Okay, albeit an expensive slap, but you're saying, I mean, there's somewhere along the line where you have to protect people. You have to protect women. You have to protect your workplace. You have to take a stand. Sports, that's one thing that we like to get to and talk about why this particular program garners so much interest because we get to a deeper story. Sports can be like an analogy for life, and sports can be that place where you strive for the excellence. But when you have things that are seedy and disrespectful and just outright despicable, those things, we need to strive for a higher ground and maybe a higher standard. Matt?
I agree with you. And you got to have an ethical standard. And we all know that the Washington football team has been a crap show for a long time, and no one likes to go play there. They can't seem to keep good coaches. Their personnel, their drafting, everything is just bad. So I read that article, and so his wife has now taken over day to day, so he can go on to now focus on the new stadium. So
Hmm.
is he really out of it? No,
No, not at all.
it's not at all.
No, that's
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
moving the chess pieces on the chessboard. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Rich, it's a slap on the wrist, and unfortunate, I mean, an expensive one, albeit, but it really does nothing, because it's kind of like, you're going to penalize the ocean by taking a cup of water out of it. It just really doesn't do anything.
Oh, it's not taking a cup of water out. It's taking that cup of water and it's pouring it over somewhere else. That's all it's really doing. You haven't changed a dang thing. And in this age where we have had so many issues, I'm sorry, I know I'm the woman on the team here, but there's not a woman that comes to the age of adulthood without some kind of, if you're lucky, some kind of sexual abuse or something inappropriate in the workplace, and something that just should not be there. And I'm not just talking about walking down the hall and someone saying, "Wow, you look beautiful today." I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outright inappropriate, maybe misogynistic things that make you feel uncomfortable. That happens, and it happens a lot. I don't know a woman my age who has not experienced that. And so this is especially an age now where women like myself have taken more of a front line in reporting and being part of team activities. So in that, we have to create a safe environment for everyone where we can just be professional. You want to be unprofessional off the field, in your own private lives, that's it's America, okay? But in the workplace, there's just shouldn't be any place for it.
You're right, Michelle. And this is just real hypocrisy by the NFL, because here the NFL talks about having equality and promoting people with all kinds of different perspectives into positions, but then you let this workplace garbage continue. I mean, that is total hypocrisy as a business, and it should not be tolerated by the consuming public in any form at all. I mean, the NFL is the most popular sport in America, but it doesn't know how to do some of its personal business. Let's face it. And if Roger Goodell is going to make $44 million a year as the commissioner, employed by the owners, football fans should expect more, and they should get more for that.
Okay, and then here's a couple of other things. We've been dealing with the NFL, Josh, with the concussion issue and the absolute ugly racial problems within that, that people of color don't have the same brain capacities, so the ruling should be lowered. There's that. And then there was another issue, and I'll have you weigh in on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Raiders gay player who was all the rage, but then suddenly he's canceled. And we'll talk about that. But first, Josh, I want to, do you know of any update on, or anyone on the NFL concussion issue?
I don't have an update on that right now.
Okay, Rich, maybe anyone?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard
Okay.
anything lately. Just going to what you said, just a few seconds ago, Michelle, assistant coach Eugene Chung made a statement several weeks ago in Boston during a career seminar that he had been told that he was not the right kind of minority that they were looking for. An NFL executive from an NFL team allegedly told him this during a job interview. Now, here's my question. You can find Daniel Snyder $10 million for workplace inappropriate behavior, his franchise for $10 million, but you can't find out, and this story came out yesterday, NFL says it cannot confirm discrimination allegation by Eugene Chung. So you can figure out whether Daniel Snyder's having inappropriate workplace activities, but you can't determine whether someone has been discriminated against. An assistant coach.
So what we're saying is the NFL's all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, it looks like the NFL has agreed to drop the race bias in those concussion claims, which is the right thing.
Oh, well, duh.
It's ridiculous to ever do that. I mean, I've said it a million times. The color of your skin doesn't matter. It just doesn't. You know, we're all people. We're all humans.
It's called human race.
So,
right?
But going back to the Chung incident, I'm outraged by this because it is, and you know, this happens all the time in terms of people who are of Asian descent. Kind of, I'm going back to what Josh just said, is that race should not factor in. I mean, it just should not. The best qualified person for the job should be the person who gets the job, period.
And if you get a head injury, it shouldn't matter what color your skin is. If you get treatment, compensation, or even a get well card. Just saying, it is really odd how we pick and choose. And that reminds me of this final story I wanted to talk about. The Raiders have what is being called the first gay NFL player, you know, who's legit on the team playing, and that's Carl Nassib. He was heralded. He was celebrated, especially coming out during LGBTQ, you know, Pride Month. But just as quickly as his star rose to fame, did it come plummeting down? Whew, because they found out something very disturbing about him.
Something that he should be very, very ashamed of.
Inexcusable.
Inexcusable.
I mean, it's worse. It's got to be worse than the drugging. It's worse than, you know, it's worse than sticky substances on gloves. He is, no.
The C word.
A conservative. What? Josh?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that it happens
diversity.
a lot. It's kind of like what was it? Bruce Jenner when he became a she, and everyone was celebrating her, and it was amazing. And it's like, hey, I like Trump. And it's like, oh, well, who is this awful person? It's
obviously
like
has mental problems. You know, wanting to get things cut off and inserted somewhere else, and all of that. That doesn't show signs of maybe you have some kind of body dysphoria, or maybe need a little bit of counseling. No. The fact that maybe you're right wing, conservative, Republican, something along those lines, man. Now you need help. You need help.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it's 100% foreign to people of that viewpoint that anyone could believe anything other than what they believe. That, you know, they believe their viewpoint to be infallible, and anyone who believes otherwise is ridiculous. And anyone who fits into their mold of who should typically believe what they believe and believes otherwise, it's like you can't fathom it. You know, if there's someone that is gay or transgender or, you know, a minority that doesn't believe the same way as you, then
You're a
it's
traitor, you're an Uncle Tom,
you're
and it's not
right.
okay because it's not true diversity. It isn't really true diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really unfortunate because on our fields, on our pitches, on our courts, that kind of diversity, wherever you come from, whatever your background, if you grew up poor, if you grew up rich, whatever color of your skin, whatever you do on Saturday or Sunday or not, we play together and we're a team. That's how we show unity and love. It's like a microcosm of how the United States has been successful. United we stand, divided we fall. This kind of ridiculousness, if he felt he needed to come out as gay, whatever, okay. But when it comes down to being on the field, when it comes down, think of the Army. It's the Navy, Air Force, Marines, the military. It's the same thing. If you're fighting next to someone, you just care that they're well trained and they've got your back, right? It's the same on the pitch, the field, and the court. And it's sad that we've gotten away from that. Guys, it's time for us to go around the round table and take our final shot. I was really glad that Matt Peel could be with us today, but he has some other stuff that he had to get to. So he said he was going to bug out quick. So don't worry, we didn't offend him. It's like, what happened to Matt? What happened to Matt? We're always glad to have him with us. But I'd like to go around the round table. We're going to start with Rich Hallstrom.
Well, my final shot goes out to former Georgia and Miami, Florida football coach Mark Richt, who revealed this week that he has the early onset of Parkinson's disease. Now, Coach Richt is a follower of Jesus Christ, so we should be praying for him and uplifting him. He's a great man of God, had a brief appearance in the Facing the Giants movie, one of the best Christian movies of all time, and we need to be praying for Coach Richt. So that's my final shot this week, Michelle.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go to Joshua McMillan.
I want to shout out to actually the NFL and cities around finally coming to the conclusion that yes, we can have full fans in the stands. So we are going to have full fans in all the stands for all the Seahawks games, and I am excited about that. We're soon going to have the same at Mariners games coming up here soon. And just we were driving. We had a family thing to get to over on the other side of the water from where I live in Seattle, and we're driving down Dave Niehaus Way and Edgar Martinez Lane. I was just at that corner there, and I was like, man, by the King Griffey Jr. statue too. It's like, oh man, I can't wait to till it's easier to get back into these things and start going. And the sunny days are coming, and we survived the apocalypse this last week here in Seattle, where it was 115. It was Arizona weather, and for the people that are saying that Seattleites are we can't handle the heat or whatever. Look, y'all in Arizona, y'all in Houston, y'all have air conditioning in 98%+ of your buildings. We have it in like 40% here. We're living out here without air conditioning. So you turn off your AC and live in that heat for a couple of days and tell me how you do.
Someone's got a chip on his shoulder.
Sorry, it's been happening a lot. Anyway, shout out to just the sports coming back, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait to get out to a ballpark.
And did you see last night there was a lot of focus on the Milwaukee fans? Man, they were out surrounding the stadium. I mean, they were shoulder to shoulder out there, no mask, no. It just looked like sports again. So it's like the world is coming alive again. We're gonna wrap it up and get
nature's
pinged.
healing, and it's beautiful.
Woohoo! We're gonna get pinged, Garrett.
Well, I think I may be the first one ever to give my final shot to a holiday. We know that 2 days from now, on Sunday, is the 4th of July. My wife, who is full-blooded Italian, born in England, she loves this holiday because of what this represents in terms of our country. We've been talking about it on our show. We talk about it all the time in terms of what makes this country great. And I think it's worth giving my final shot to the good old US of A, because Independence Day, our 4th of July, is significant. And I hope that it will always be celebrated for what it represents and for who we are as a people, as a nation.
Amen.
I love it. I wanted to give my final shot out. This was maybe a couple weeks old, but it really blessed me. Sometimes it's not what you do in your line of duty, but it's what you do when the chips are down. If you remember a couple weeks back, Christian Eriksen, who plays for the Netherlands, collapsed on the pitch. I mean, in front of the entire world, he goes down. A defender, Simon Kajir, I hope I'm saying his name right. He actually was the one that cleared Ericsson's airways, gave him CPR, and then as the medics came and took over, went over and consoled his wife after he fell down. And that's what I want to say as I play off of what you said, Garrick, that there's something deeper here, and I know he's from the Netherlands, we're from the United States, but there is something beautiful. We are created in the image of God, and here where we are, the land of the free and the home of the brave, that's the kind of attitude I want to have when the chips are down, when things aren't working right. I don't want to be the person who is gawking in the stands. I want to be the person who's making a difference. Our country may be in a little bit of turmoil right now. We can be part of the solution. So go USA, and thank you for men like Simon Kajer. Am I saying his name right, Rich?
Correct. You got it correct.
To people like that who make a difference wherever you're at. God bless you. So God bless you. God bless America. It's been a pleasure to have you guys with us today. A big reminder that you can go to MyMichelleLive.com. There you can get the transcript of the show. You can look at some of our products. There's going to be new and wonderful ways that you can connect with our affiliates who will give you great products at great prices, and you help My Michelle Live as well. So thanks a lot, and guys, thanks for being with us today.
Anytime, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
I'm actually looking, because I'm remote. Can I give one more thing? I just want to say one more thing as we're doing this today, guys. I'm actually could use some prayers because I'm in a hurricane zone. And the first hurricane of the season, Hurricane Elsa, is on a trajectory to hit where I'm at in Fort Myers in a couple of days. So I'm in evacuation zone A, which is the one that will be hit the worst. Right now it's a category 1. It could get smaller and just be a storm. It could get worse and be really dangerous. People hunker down here, go without like the Northwest there, Josh, without air conditioning and without electricity. Internet's already spotty, so I'm gonna be getting out whether they force an evacuation or not. But just your prayers as it does get on hurricane season. It hits kind of close to home when you're
Michelle,
in it. So
let me just offer a prayer if you don't mind.
let's do it. Thank you.
Okay. God, thank you so much that we still have the freedom in this country to celebrate, to pray, to have the freedoms that we have enjoyed. And we thank you, Lord, that we have the freedom to travel as well, and that Michelle is in Florida right now. And Lord, as there is a hurricane that has its sights on the area where she is. That's okay. God gets interrupted by cell phones all the time, and I think he's used to it. But Lord, we do pray for safety for all the people who are in the path of that hurricane. We ask, Lord, if there's a way for it to just dampen down, or at least the whatever goes on with it be minimized, so that people are safe and not in harm's way. We pray specifically for our friend Michelle. We thank you, God, that she's been able to be there in Florida, but we pray that you would give her wisdom and clarity as far as if she's supposed to go and where. And we just thank you for her. We thank you for the My Michelle Live podcast, and Lord, for just the ways that that you use that to encourage and to bless people. And we just pray that it would continue to grow and be blessed, as well as your blessing on us and on these wonderful listeners who have tuned in as well. So we thank you for all these things and give you praise and glory, for you deserve it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks, guys, for being with us. We'll catch you next time.
For more fun, go to MyMichelleLive.com.
Woo!
It's a wrap.
It is.
That was good stuff. That was good stuff, guys.
wrap.
Recording stopped.
There you go.